And we are recording. I have no idea if the little bit of streaming I did just a few minutes ago is going to be at the start of this video or not. In case I did, forget everything I said in that video. I am going to read a couple of things off the laptop that's running the streaming itself, and then I'm going to turn, so I'm not going to be making eye contact with the camera, but you're probably used to that by now, but I am going to be looking at the screen, so I'm not like this the whole time. So we are, yes, I have the spoiler tag on now. Is that really the only, I guess that's the only one, yeah, okay. There we go. Yes, for those who are not already aware, this is going to be a long video, and you already know that, but there are going to be time codes in the description box, and I am no longer recording shorter versions of the long videos. Now, that brings us to Runaway from 1984, and it's the US one. And yes, I do in fact have to specify all that. Just try doing a search for Runaway in movie titles, and you'll see. I think South Korea maybe also made a Runaway this exact same year. Anyway, Runaway 1984 US, thoughts on the film, and we are going to start with notes. Whoops. Notes taken while watching. And the first couple of these I did actually, write out before I started watching, just so I can make sure to say them, and make sure to say them at the very top of the video. I love this movie. I've watched it several times, and just it's exactly my kind of movie. I love the many robots and machine-sick technologies that's in the film, and my absolute favorites are the spider robots and the high-tech gun, the smart bullet gun. Now, I love the edge that there is to movies like this and Fortress. There's this. Yeah, I think edge is the best word that. Let's see. And I don't know anything about Kiss other than having played the demo of Psycho Circus, which is freaking awesome. Can I say freaking? I think I might actually. There's some swearing in this movie, so I might also swear in this video for those bothered by that. And finally, my copy of this does not have any subtitles, so if I get stuff wrong, it's probably because I couldn't quite tell what they were saying. It's been years since I watched this with subtitles, and I am really, really used to subtitles, so yeah. My ears are not attuned to being able to hear dialogue when there aren't subtitles backing me up on that, so. And here we go. This is where the notes start that I wrote specifically as I was, one second, I think that'll do, as I was watching the movie. Let's see, yeah, I think it's pretty good, yeah. Right from the opening credits, we have this sinister, creepy vibe that I absolutely love about the movie. That's Ramsey. If you want to keep up with him, you gotta move. And I really like, for this movie that's like about how there are all these robots that are malfunctioning and they're dangerous. Some of them are dangerous. I do like that also several of them are just like, this construction yard robot keeps dropping the things and they fall right to the ground. It's like, you're dropping them into air. Can you do something about this, please? Not all of them are like murderers. That would really make the movie seem just like alarmist, you know, and I really appreciate, because the aspects of it that are really, really terrifying are that much more effective, because it is. There are also movies that are really effective because everything is just, you know, the terrifying. There's no, it never lets up. But for this, I think it really works. But yeah, you know, the for a movie that is so about these robots that are going haywire, you know, I guess it's not the first robot we see, but one of the first robots we see is this yellow robot. This is doing its job, you know. It's out in this field of plants, and we see this little bug, and it's, you know, it's I don't know bugs, but you see it's clearly eating the plant leaf. So we've got this robot going in and like grabbing it and like putting it down, and it's like this, you know, puts it down, and just for, you know, just in case you're not exactly sure what you're looking at, because at first it's like, they start like, you know, moving, and it's just crushed like a bug. And that is, I mean, if a human tried to approach that bug, it would like immediately be able to tell, okay, there's something big approaching me, or fly away, you know, or run away if it doesn't have, you know, whatever. But the robot can move very slowly, and like, yeah, so it's, I don't know, I suppose it might also have some problems with it, but anyway, you see why this is, you know, certainly also try talking a human being into just going up to leaves and grabbing and crushing, and then the next one, but a robot's gonna do it. So yeah, you know, and then you see another yellow robot, and it's just running right through the field, which is literally the opposite of its job. You know, it's there to help the growth of the field. It's not there to run over, you know. And then we see from the helicopter angle, and it's like running in these ridiculous, you know, you almost figure maybe it's trying to spell a word, maybe it's trying to signal aliens, but you know, it doesn't, from a human perspective, what it's doing does not make any sense. And yes, I realize it's using a lot of CPU, and as far as I can tell, there are no performance issues. Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't like dialogue boxes that just pop up and just stay there. It's you know, I don't know, I think the mouse was maybe resting over the dialog box before, so, you know, if there is like a sentience inside the computer that handles the dialog box, it's just like, ooh, I get attention. And let's see, yes, yeah, I don't know, I'm just really hyper these last couple of videos. I don't know, maybe it's getting to watch 2.5 Men again, you know, several really cool movies coming up. I don't know, some people say Venom doesn't look good. I've wanted a movie that did Venom right for 25 years, I guess, and 2022. And there's, you know, I think Aquaman looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really liking that the DCU is genuinely shifting away from the grimdark. I'm liking the trailers, at least for Halloween. I think it looks like, yeah, and let's see, then we've got Alita Battle Angel. I think that new, I forget what it's called, but the new movie about, you know, the girl with the dragon tattoo. Yeah, the trailer looks pretty good. So yeah, some combination of that, I guess. And, you know, we meet Karen, and, you know, Ramsey tells him, you know, he's got fear of heights. And she's like, my brother had the same problem. You just take deep breaths. Wow, Karen really is a Karen, isn't she? Gee, thanks, I'm cured, Karen. I didn't know it was that easy. I didn't know that, yeah. It's a meme. yeah, they get into the field. They manage to stop that first robot, and it blows up. And and again, for such a sinister, creepy vibe to the majority of the movie, blows up, and then they've got like soot on their faces. I know that also happens in real life, but nobody in the Western world sees that and doesn't immediately think like Looney Tunes. Just that's yeah. And we get Ramsey's backstory with the whole vertigo thing, where find out, because he has vertigo, he was unable to stop this one guy, and he killed 6 people, and he blames himself. Karen says that's not his fault, but that's, yeah. And it's it's cliche. It's nothing we haven't seen before, but it works, I think. Excuse me. Yeah, you from that brief. It's delivered via just exposition rather than us getting to see it or something. But nevertheless, we learn that he's got. He feels like he has to really. He wants to save people, and he blames himself when people do still get killed. He was a regular cop once, but yeah, because of the he just felt like he couldn't do that anymore after that. It's and yeah, you get that he wants to be able to save and rescue people, but which is also, he's hiding in, do they call it Runaway Squad? I think Runaway Squad. He's, because that way he feels like, well, no matter how much I mess up, no one's going to die because of it. So, but he does want to save people. So, once once he learns that Luther is out, that there's people are getting killed because of runaway robots. Okay, now you're just crying for attention. That's the exact same dialogue box as before. Still running exactly. Sorry, that was the Gennaro wave. I'm watching Venom. Sorry, I'm watching The Predator soon, so of course I rewatched what Shane Black I have, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is in fact one of those. Right. Once once he has to deal with these killer robots, he's able to save people again, and yeah. Now, it's really nightmarish when they get to this suburban house and 2 people have been murdered by a runaway. If you are not safe in your own house, in your own home, not everybody lives in a house, if you're not safe when you're around the in the reality of the movie, these are essentially just ordinary house, what's it called, appliances. For well, not today, but for when the movie, today we do have robotic appliances in our, not everyone equally much, but it's you have some kind of device somewhere in your house, most likely. But in 1984, the idea is if like your coffee machine suddenly, tried killing you or something, that's just, yeah, it's this thing, we trust these things with, yeah. Anyway, and they send in the floater, the little robot that trying to look for it, and it's got the camera, and the robot shoots it. Which also, I think that's the first shot fired. Before that, it stabbed the 2 women who very conveniently ran outside, so they know that there are dead people, and they don't have to worry about like tripping over the body or anything. And, the guy living in the house very clearly knows something, and he's like, what do you mean? Why would I, change anything about this robot? And it just, yeah. And, if you haven't watched the movie before, you maybe, well, no, you're going to remember. You don't know his name is Luther at that point, but you see, yeah, Luther is right there watching. He's not just going to like watch the news on no, he's watching his handiwork in action. Now, and we see Ramsey goes in wearing, I'm sorry, I didn't voice type what the suit was called, but it was something, basically it makes him less visible to the robot because they explain it in the movie. I'm not gonna embarrass myself further by getting stuff wrong that was said in dialogue that I didn't have subtitles for. I get that the movie is saying that the press can sometimes be too eager to get close to violent situation. If it bleeds, it leads. But why is Ramsey the only cop who is bothered that the cameraman goes into the house? It seems like someone else could go up and stop him. Just, it's a bit obvious that it's because they wanted to have the cameraman actually go in the house and him being like, no, you do your thing. I'm just here to film, and I'm gonna shine a big nice light in. So just, I have to assume that he accidentally left his, bullseye suit at home with the air horn, because obviously he really could not be more of a target right now. And the robot very nearly hits Ramsey with the gun in the head several times. I think at least three times. That's, yeah. And, Ramsey comes back out and learns, the father left. He disappeared with his own kid still in there. Again, you really, okay, something's going on there. I really love the programming and the lines of Lois in general. Just, I like that in a movie with so much sinister and creepy that you have this, happy homemaker type, and it's just, it's so perfect. And I'm not saying that when I first watched the movie I would have wanted a Lois bot as a nanny when I was younger. I'm just saying that if I had a time machine and could travel into the future to when they do exist and travel back in time so that I did have one, I would almost definitely do so. But yeah, just, and she's like, it is now 10:45, which is an hour and 40 minutes past your bedtime. Bobby, you have to go to bed. And then, a couple of lines, I'm gonna go make sure he brushes his teeth. Just absolutely love it. And, Ramsey's like, so what did he eat? And, hot dogs. You can't keep making him hot dogs. And she's like, it's all he'll eat. It's such a married couple raising a child argument to have. And, bless Tom Selleck, he's selling it. He is talking to a prop that's supposed to be like a robot that is like nothing that they had at the time, and he is selling it, utterly selling it, sellicking it. Just, yeah, you buy that he believes this thing understands what he's saying and, cares about his opinion. It's not like, forget you, it's like, it's all he wouldn't eat anything else. I suggested. I'm sorry, but just and of course Bobby's gonna, because he knows the robot, if he keeps saying no to his father, he's gonna get yelled at. But the robot might not be programmed to really be stern with him or something. It kind of remind me of that. What was it called? Laughs TV show. Steve Hofstetter put a bunch of the, he did the show and a bunch of the episodes are online. And there's this one comic who says that when you're the step parent, you're not allowed to yell at the child, except as like a backup, because, if like if the mother says you have to finish your dinner before you have dessert, that's just parenting. But if the stepfather says you have to, the mother's like, why are you yelling at him? And he realized that the only way is as like a backup, like a chant kind of thing. So the mother is like, you have to go to bed right now, and you have to go to bed right now, something like that. I'm not doing a very good job delivering the joke, but that's what it reminded me of. That Lois is like the backup. She's the step parent. Bobby is not that old, but he's old enough to know he did not come out of the loins of Lois. That's just not how that happened. And immediately Bobby is like trying to set his father up with the girl that both of them kind of like Karen, and just very, very, I've been there. And the kid is worried that Lois too might go crazy, become a runaway, and he is it supposed to make that noise? I guess it is. It sounds like there's a tiny little buzzsaw felling some trees in there, and I hope he's making decent wage. Because did Bobby see it on TV? Didn't he? Or that's why Lois had to say go to bed. Just you can't stay up to watch murder on the 6 o'clock, 10:30 o'clock, whatever. And that's genuine. Again, it's a nice human moment in this movie full of killer robots, and that's something you worry about. And that's when I first watched it, I was kind of relieved that Lois never became a killer bot, because and again, I appreciate the restraint there, because again, this is a movie wherein is it called a swarm? What's a group of spiders called? A pack? Something terrifying that you run away from? Something like that. Of metal spiders jump onto people, stab them with acid needles, and then blow up. So it's nice to have some human moments, and some robots that do not end up killing. It has an edge, but it doesn't feel like everything has to be grimdark either. And they examine the chip, realize it's not from a factory, and blows up. And the construction worker explaining why she uses robots instead of people. No coffee breaks, no union hassles. I can't tell if that line is supposed to be like, maybe it's not a snipe at all, but maybe it's a snipe at like employers that are like, why should I give jobs to human beings who need to eat, when I can have a robot? Or if it's like a snipe at like unions and workers that want a decent wage, and getting replaced because people don't want to have to. You can pretty much see where I'm at on the subject. And of course, the elevator doesn't have a door, because why would a robot need one? Just Ramsey is like, he's already, oh yeah, it's all the way up there, you're gonna have to take the elevator. There are a lot of places you could fall down from up there, and you'd definitely die immediately. Also, the elevator doesn't have a door, and every so often it'll like go insane. It'll go way too high up and then go really far down, and it's a thing. I don't know, the robots prefer it that way. Also, was it absolutely necessary for Karen to tell Ramsey, oh, it's really windy up here? Yeah. And, Ramsey points out he doesn't, why should machines be perfect when the human beings making them aren't? And you get the partially deleted video message of Luther. So creepy. I didn't voice type it, and I might have put it in some of the other notes, but again, I really appreciate there's this, they like recreate Luther's face from on, like on the machine with yeah. And after it's been recreated, it blinks. That's not like by accident. That's definitely by design. And man, is it creepy. Excuse me. And, the guy Luther's working with wants Luther to pay before he'll give him all the chips. And, Luther very quickly leaves, and the suitcase has newspaper, not actual money. And you get the first spider robot, and just stabs him in the chin and just explodes. And just, again, getting stabbed even by a tiny little needle is creepy in general, but I don't know, there's just some, your throat, and then it's just, yeah, that's blah. They really knew how to make these movies terrified of robots and computers in the 80s. Like that one part in Superman 3 that's worth watching. Just so cool. I can't explain that scene. I don't think anybody can explain that scene. Just clearly someone working on it really wanted this utterly freaking terrifying, traumatizing scene in this otherwise very child-friendly movie, and it has nothing to do with anything. It's just someone really wanted. Early in the movie, it's like, computers are weird. Sometimes they misbehave, and then, yeah, I'm not going to go into detail on this for anyone who hasn't watched. If you haven't watched Superman 3, you've made the right choices in life. However, if you ever do watch, find it on YouTube. It's probably somewhere on YouTube. But otherwise, if you sit down and watch the whole thing, just be warned. There's this really terrifying thing with a computer kind of, yeah. I can't go out there. You should listen to him, Ramsey. Tom. I'm gonna call him Tom. I really love I already said, but the smart bullets and the POV shots of them flying. Those shots were in the TV ads, and that was part of the reason I watched this movie on TV when I first watched it, 20 years ago or something. Just the spider robots that jump and stab, and the POV bullet following, just, yeah. And they excuse me, just briefly. Oh, right. Yeah, maybe it's good that I look at that was the, yeah. There we go. It's one of those, I am going to reboot whether you like it or not in so-and-so, and there were 6 minutes left, and now there's 4 hours left. There we go. That was the level, or whatever it's called. It always folds, but it never breaks. It's plastic instead of glass, I think. But yeah, they have to use the robot to find, 1 minute, please. Allow me to search. Searching. Still searching. I really love Karen's face when Ramsey's clearly interested in Kirstie Alley. Just, immediately when he sees it, he's like, oh, who's that? And she's like, ah. And like, she's pretty, or so, just, yeah. It's set for stun. I noticed. And Ramsey has to crawl behind the counters and like knock over stuff so that the thing will, notice the noise, and he has to get into, crawling behind counters, get into the blind spot of the robot before he attacks. Clearly he's played stealth video games, or the people who develop stealth video games have watched this movie. And she's like, no, I I don't need, I can go by myself, I don't need your, and then she drops the bag, tons of chips fall out, and now we realize why she was in such a hurry to get away, and, she explains he was threatening to kill her like he killed the two guys involved if she didn't get him the chips. And I guess, Luther wouldn't have wanted that robot to be stun happy, so yeah, that's probably a regular malfunctioning robot. So that's, again, a nice touch that the guy who's intentionally making robots really dangerous, his plans are slowed down at least because of a robot that turned dangerous without any help. And, the cops bust in on Luther trying to sell the chips, and he, of course, had a, insurance policy. He gasses the room, and Ramsey's vertigo slows him down from running on the stairs. And of course the police chief is angry with Ramsey, so goes the cliche. And removing the bullet is a very tense scene, and it doesn't exactly hurt that it literally ends with an explosion, albeit a small one. But it's not the size that counts. And Karen thought it was a date, but it's not. And like a typical guy, Ramsey's so confused why it went wrong. He really did not see that coming. Just obviously, she's into you. Yeah. And he comes home. Where's your guest for dinner? Forget it. She forget it? No, she didn't forget it. I'm asking you to forget it. Very well. I will delete it from my memory. Yeah. It's in some ways, Lois really is a lot like Alexa. She'll misunderstand what you say, and if you give her, a command, she's going to carry out that command, and just, yeah. Now, I quite like Bobby and Ramsey together. You heard of a bullet that has your name on it? Well, this one really does. And he also points out, get one of these chips into a home computer, turns it into a killing machine. The police chief is having a psychic read the bullet. How very Judge Dredd. I guess they were inspired by the same thing or something. Was that a thing in the 80s? Did police, higher ups in police actually say, you know what we need? We need a psychic. I realized that in the early 2000s there were a couple of shows that were based on the main character having some kind of psychic thing, being able to find missing people and such. I may or may not have watched, what was it called? 1-800-MISSING? That's such a corny title. Where the second season is all cool, and you've got, Vivica A. Fox, and just, yeah, I quite enjoyed. I think it only got the 2 seasons. I quite enjoyed both seasons of that show. I think 1-800-MISSING was what it was called, but if not, you might. Jess Mastroianni or something like that. Yes. Hey Ramsey, he says he knows you're here. You know someone named Luther? And Kirsty has bugs in both her blouse and her bra. What a not at all contrived way for her to get half naked. And I really love them driving in the cop cars, and you've got these small robots following, and they use the laser to blow up some of them, and Ramsey has to move from one cop car to the other while they're driving fast, and they're still following even though they switched cars. And then at the sushi place, which is a little racist, but yeah, I'm not going to make excuses for that. It could have been a lot worse. There are movies that were a lot worse. Luther has Karen as a hostage and communicating through her headset, and he's like, be cool, okay? And he realizes he didn't get all the templates, so he stabs Kirsty and fires smart bullets at Ramsey. I really like the personality of Luther. He's so nasty. He's so just, sociopathic, and just he will kill his girlfriend if he realizes that she didn't get him all that you know, he wanted of the, just, yeah. Very nice variety of locations in the movie. You've got suburban houses, this plant field, construction site, alleys, sushi place, hotel, police station, etc. And I realized I didn't list those in chronological order. I listed them as I thought to voice type them. And, you know, the spider robot climbs up the wall, gets on the ceiling, and you get the POV shot of it, like, looking down, and which, again, just, that's creepy. It's creepy to be watched by something that can and wants to harm you. And, you know, stabs the female cop in the chin, explodes in the face of the other cop. And, you know, Luther uses disembodied eyeballs, access the police computer, retinal scan, and we find Lois has been sabotaged. I'm really sorry, but dinner will not be painted in time. Ramsey is not here to answer your car. And, you know, Ramsey's like, I'm not taking any chances with Bobby. Clearly he is more anxious than earlier in the movie, where he was more, yeah, you know, he genuinely felt like we can do this. We can get by with, you know, Nia's an incredibly competent cop also, but yeah, with Bobby, he's not taking any chances. I really love this entire last scene of the construction yard. So tense. And we're told if the elevator reaches the bottom, the spiders will kill Bobby, but the buttons don't work. You know, it's very easy for Luther to, you know, mess around with the elevator. Earlier, he hacked into the CCTV cameras in the police station. You know, he managed to get into the police station with no one recognizing, you know, despite, yeah, you know, people are looking for him, so, yeah. And Karen arrives because Lois had recorded the conversation, so, you know, she helps Bobby climb up so the spiders won't kill him. And Karen herself doesn't get attacked by the spiders because she didn't she didn't come by the elevator. It's the same as Ramsey didn't. He could also walk right past them. And Ramsey uses heat to stay safe from the smart bullets. Very nicely done. It's one of those things where when you see it happen, it makes sense, and you're you know, it doesn't feel like a cop out. It doesn't feel like they wrote themselves into a corner and just, yeah. It really wants me to know about high CPU usage. Yes, the thing with the thing and the thing. The crap. One moment. Was it? Right, the smart bullets. It doesn't feel like a cop-out. It doesn't feel like the writer wrote himself into a corner and then was like, I guess this will do, you know. They said it locks onto the unique thermal signature. In other words, if it can't, you know, if it can't see you because of other heat, you know, it's looking specifically for heat, so it's, you know, it's basically, it's as if like there's a wall. If it was a human being trying to look directly in front of it, it would be like if there was a physical wall there, you know, just it can't see. Ramsey at the top of the elevator really is, it's so incredibly scary seeing how far down there is to the bottom. And the spiders get onto Ramsey's elevator and, you know, spray acid in his face, and he manages to take out at least some of them one by one. You know, was he like, he takes off the jacket and, you know, puts it around one of them, and, you know, one of them, you know, and some of them are like on the other side of the chain link fence, and so he can just like, you know, poke them so that they can no longer hold on to their side of the fence, and yeah. But again, the good guy is having acid sprayed in his face. Just, yeah. And he falls and grabs onto the bottom of the elevator and takes the elevator back down, but he's still hanging. And I love Luther's face as he approaches Ramsey. Just in general, Did he end up, Gene Simmons, did he end up doing many movies? Is he still alive? I don't know. If he's in more movies, I may have to try to find them, especially if he's playing a villain, because he is so freaking good here. And apparently he didn't have to read for the part, he just had to stare at the guy for like half a minute or something and say nothing, and then he knew, okay, this is the guy. And I think he also knew, Kiss. So. And they fight on the elevator, and Luther falls onto the ground and is attacked and killed by his own spiders. And again, it's he's lying there, and they go up and they stab and spray, and then they go up to and just just. I really love that way more than I should. And of course, Ramsey and Karen end up together. Now, let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. Yeah, that definitely bounced the camera. Sorry about that. IMDb and Wikipedia. Sorry. There we go. Yes. Now, in preparation for doing a video on this movie, I read IMDb stuff and was reminded, and Wikipedia and such, and I get the plot summaries of the ones he's directed. They sound awesome, but he was the one who, Gene Simmons had to look at him. Oh, yeah, I did note that. And let's see. But yeah, earlier when I alluded to, the person responsible for this and that in the movie, I was, at least on the time, talking about Michael Crichton. Now, I'm not going to read aloud all of this, but yeah, just briefly. Gene Simmons, in his book Sex, Money, Kiss, says that director Michael Crichton's casting of him was based primarily on audition. Crichton asked Simmons to stare at him for about a minute without making any facial expressions. And apparently Crichton decided that Simmons looked menacing enough and cast him for the role of Luther. And yeah, I can completely understand that. And yeah, a bunch of, a lot of the following is stuff that I just copy-pasted from IMDb and Wikipedia and such. The film accurately predicts domestic robots, video mail, social media, the internet, voice-activated computers, biometric security and retinal identification, camera drones, tablet PCs, wireless headsets, and that police officers would use semi-automatic pistols as sidearms. In 1984, most police officers used revolvers. That's really, really impressive. I mean, yeah. Not absolutely everything in the movie is, or we don't quite have a Lois yet, but yeah, it's remarkable how much it accurately predicted. Now, for some reason, the posters for this movie had Tom Selleck holding the rocket gun that Luther uses when Ramsey never uses it during the story. That's, yeah. I guess they thought that people would rather see him with, yeah. And yeah, the story is the most important element in all Michael Crichton's works. He believed a great problem with some movies is that they had elaborate sets or exotic hardware, in that they are so vast and visual and therefore so interesting to look at that the technology threatens to take over the film. Crichton said, the robots and the level of robotics in Runaway is very primitive and mechanical. We don't have anything that is super intelligent. They're machines, they're not perfect. Being primitive, they're sort of stupid and they make mistakes, and this adds to the suspense in the film. There are several scenes where the characters won't let the machines do the work. the character that Tom plays is constantly saying, "Don't use the machine, let a person do it." And I very much agree that they could easily have done some, I'm not saying I want just straight up like a remake or a reboot or a sequel, but a movie a lot like this with an R rating today, I think they could do some really interesting stuff with, I don't think that, I don't necessarily think they're remaking this, because there's not a lot to necessarily add to this particular, but another story with similar kind of stuff, I think would be very interesting. There's a scene after Bobby's kidnapping which lists his social preferences on the household robot within the Ramsey household. This film depicted an early variation of social media which predated MySpace and Facebook. And MyFace. And an assistant director came up to Gene Simmons during the location filming and said that one of the off-duty Vancouver police doing crowd control had pointed at Simmons and said, "Better get him out of there." Upon being assured by the assistant director that he was one of the actors, the cop continued, "I don't know. If I shook hands with him, I'd count on my fingers." Writer director Michael Crichton was a man who doesn't take filmmaking lightly, according to the film's production notes. "Every detail must be just right," Crichton said. "We're doing a story that looks to me like how the world is going to be in a few years. Many of the things in the film that are supposed to be in the future are already here." And that, several of the things that are in the film did come to pass not long after the film. Let's see. A lot of them took longer, but Tom Selleck's character's name, Ramsey, is said approximately 52 times in the movie, a little more than once every 2 minutes. And this was the final science fiction film directed by Michael Crichton. He died really young, didn't he? That always sucks, especially when it's someone so gifted. He really had something to say with these movies. And let's see. Yeah, I'm not gonna read out this, but the trivia, the IMDb trivia, is quite compelling for the movie. I'm not gonna get all of it. Let's see. And Tom Selleck said, around 1984, "Though it's set in the future, the film has a contemporary feeling. I suppose that's because the robots in it are technically advanced, but not that far from what we read about in the paper almost daily. The robots in Runaway are types which we're likely to see in factories, offices, and homes within the next few years." And yeah, factories did start using a lot of robots now. I think also some before this movie came out, but yeah. Now, let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to read every single one of these. And I suppose... Let's see. I suppose that is... Yes, here we get to the reviews. That's the thing I forgot to mention. Now, on the tomato meter, this only has 44%. And, with an average rating of 4.8 out of 10, 18 reviews counted, and 10 of them rotten. There you go. And it's too little for a critic's consensus. And the audience score was only 32% liking it, with an average rating of 2.9 out of 5. I really don't understand why people didn't like it more. I guess I'm not necessarily that surprised that critics didn't, because it is one of these films, it's very much a genre film. But some of the things they say also really don't make sense. This stuff about how, there we go. The characters are not... I don't know. I don't see it, but I think I'll get to it now. Right, and... yeah, Michael Crichton on the... let's see... It's a nice looking future. No neo-Nazis, no Big Brother, no hideosity, no grime. There we go. And yeah, also Crichton. There's some bizarre aspect of people that's desperately eager not to accept responsibility for the power they use, the votes they cast, or the garbage they create. He explains, there's nothing called technology that creates itself. If we don't like atomic weapons or air pollution, we have only ourselves to blame. It's all choices, all a product of our hands and minds. And yeah, and with a multi-million-dollar budget, big-name actors, and a world-famous author as both writer and director, Runaway was planned as 1984's major science fiction draw. However, it was overshadowed by James Cameron's blockbuster The Terminator, which no one saw that movie coming, Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, and 2010, the year we made contact, and the film was a box office disappointment. The Terminator is a much better movie, but this really did deserve success too. And I think the thing with Search for Spock is people really wanted to see Spock again, so yeah. I don't think that's that. It has its fun parts, definitely. I think that's the one with Christopher Lloyd as a Klingon. I think that might be the one where Kirk is like, I have had enough of you. Yeah, there are definitely fun aspects to that movie. It's just, it's not that amazing of a movie, I mean, it's one of those things. Yeah, just to briefly, the second movie, The Wrath of Khan is an amazing movie. I think the fourth is called The Voyage Home, and I think that's the time travel one. That's just a really fun movie. That's when Star Trek got humor right, they could really nail it, and it's something I really appreciate. Basically, if I recall, in the 60s, 70s show, they did a time travel to... They always do a time travel to the present. So there they had like 60s or 70s kind of present. Then they did the 80s movie where it's 80s present. In one of the show, possibly more than one of the shows. I think both Deep Space Nine and Voyager, both of them, made in the 90s. They had a travel to the present, and then they had like 90s stuff. And did Enterprise do one where it was then like 2000 stuff? I forget. I don't remember very much of Enterprise, but I quite appreciate that. Each time they have something fun to say about, the culture of the day. I remember almost nothing about 2010. It's not a Stanley Kubrick movie, and it's the sequel to a Stanley Kubrick movie. So I like some of Peter Hyams' other work. I'm almost 100% certain that he's the director of that movie with the what's it called? The ice hockey, I'm just going to describe it. Jean-Claude Van Damme as an ex-firefighter, and everyone's at this hockey game, and Die Hard the movie happens. Basically, it's one of the countless Die Hard clones. Sorry about that. And yeah, it's a fun film. Jean-Claude Van Damme fights someone wearing the mascot costume, which, if I recall, is a chicken. He fights a grown person in a chicken suit in a kitchen, and there's stuff that burns you, and just it's a fun film. There are a lot of fun films among the Die Hard clones. No Contest. I forget the titles, but I watched a lot of them in the 90s. Now, yes, this is Wikipedia. Still critical. The film received mixed reviews. There you go. The New York Times said Michael Crichton has a much better feel for the gadgets than its human players. I mean, the gadgets are certainly... I don't think that he does poorly with the people. I mean, there's this interview where he explains, and he's talking about how when he was in medical school, he was basically thinking that I can't quite. I think he maybe had. He wasn't completely. Yeah, when it came to human relationships, he didn't necessarily understand it 100%, but I really don't think that's a big thing in this movie. I mean, there are a lot of movies in the 80s that have a similar kind of... I feel like it's more of an 80s thing than a Crichton thing, but yeah. And yeah, the Los Angeles Times called it assured thoroughly cinematic filmmaking, its flourish of ingenious gadgetry not overwhelming its human dimension. That I agree with. Very well put. And the Chicago Tribune thought the movie began excitingly but descended into a routine chase thriller in which Selig was a poor lead. And I don't know, I mean, I guess I think an argument could be made for that. And I think really, yeah, I'm kind of forgiving for that, because I like routine chase thrillers, and I really like the universe. And this, I'd also really like a game set. I think a game where you are basically a runaway cop. One of the cops who deal with the runaway robots. And yeah, sometimes you just have to deal with a robot that accidentally drops things from all the way up in the construction yard. And sometimes it's like these killer robots. I think that could be fun. But then the guy also says, Selig is a poor lead because he's too nice, too familiar to be a big star in the movies. I mean, I watched the show he was on, the Hawaii set where he's and there's the British guy and there's a dog. I watched that show when I was growing up. I had watched that show for years. When I saw this movie, I never thought that, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. I think that's more his personal opinion, dude. I don't think that everybody thinks that, oh, Tom Selleck's too nice, too familiar to be a big, yeah. Now, Roger Ebert said, Selleck and Simmons gave good performances, but the film quickly became mired in cliches. I happen to like the cliches and enjoy yeah. And Gene Siskel thought the core premise was intriguing, but the film poorly executed. I don't know, I may have to look up. He probably expanded at least a little on that. I might have to look that up, but yeah, I disagree with that. Now, let's see. And yeah, those are all of my notes. Man, it's weird to do these really short videos when I'm also doing it, 4 hours and 20 minutes on a single season of 2.5 Men. But yeah, let's see. I don't think there's anything left that I hadn't already gone into. I think all the acting is quite good. I don't know, I find it tense, and I really love that it has such, it could easily have been, Luther could have been a kind of just like cold, distant businessman kind of type, like, I make these weapons and I want to test them out on the people that help make these weapons for me, and, oh, you betrayed me, well, I have no need for you anymore. But instead, he's this just so intense character, and he's so just, and again, and it could also have been, they didn't have to make the robots, the killer robots, the intentionally killer robots, so terrifying, and it didn't have to have a scene where a cop arrives on the scene and he's told, this robot killed 2 women already, and it might kill an infant. By the way, this robot is supposed to take care of the house, but it does, and it's all the better for it. It's a movie that really understands how we could really end up in an incredibly terrifying situation if we do give robots too much. Every so often, our stuff glitches out, and currently these things do not actually have the capacity, they can't actually kill us, but yeah, it's, like I said, it could very easily have turned alarmist and kind of fear-mongering, but it doesn't feel like a movie that's made by a guy who's afraid of robots, or a movie that's supposed to make you afraid of robots. It feels like a movie that's saying nothing is, there's no such thing as something that never goes wrong. Everything we build will eventually have some kind of problem down the line, and we choose whether we're gonna just treat these things as if nothing could ever go wrong, or if we're going to take some precautions, and probably at least in part due to movies like this, that one scene in Superman 3, The Terminator, movies like this that really scare us to our core about robots and computers and such. Because of these films, at least in part, so far we don't really have, the factory robots, those can be incredibly dangerous. But you don't have anything that's really close to people that's incredibly dangerous. That there's no, safety precautions taken and such. It's there were some movies that predicted what the reality would be, but a lot of them were like, scary killer robots and such. But in reality, it's just computers taking a lot of information and getting fascists elected in mostly democratic elections and such. But yeah, so absolutely love this movie, and if this video made you go out and watch the movie, then I have done my job right. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed watching as I enjoyed recording, and I will see you next time. And